Okay.
Awesome.
And I'll share that this is my first time attempting to navigate all of this screen stuff on my own. Jeff did it for me the last time, and he's great at it. So bear with me. I'm going to try to be just as skilled.
I'm just really glad you're not having to sit in your car in front of Starbucks and hope that, they're not going to ask you to come in and buy another cup of coffee, right?
Yeah, last time I was facilitating foundation, they kicked me off the internet. Fortunately, it was at the end. Okay,
Yes.
I am going to share my screen if that's okay. Let's make
Okay.
sure that this works.
You've got the control then, Doreen. Okay, thanks so much.
Yeah.
Foundation 3, International Service. Here we go.
Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so you also have this handout in your curriculum. And this screen, let me adjust my view so that I can hide that. Okay, that is much better. Here we go. I'm just going to adjust my screen a little bit. All right. Okay, so what is international service? Who wants to share?
And again, just go ahead and unmute if you can, because we're not getting a lot of feedback, and it's better to be interactive.
So it's service that happens outside of your home country for Rotary in partnership with another country's club.
Okay, that's great. And what are the benefits of getting involved in international service?
You
see our club as what it truly is. It's an international club.
Okay.
You learn more about other people around the world.
Right. Okay. What kinds of international service projects do your clubs participate in? Can anyone share a project they're doing or they have done?
Well, we've done projects in Guatemala and in Mexico. Guatemala having to do with water sanitation and maternal and children's health. And we're currently, communicating with Aguascalientes about a children's health issue.
Okay, and Aguascalientes, is that a non-governmental organization, an NGO?
Aguascalientes is a state in the country of Mexico.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they have a soft palate, cleft palate, cleft lip project they're working on, having to do with, preparing children who are suffering from that for better success in school and life in general.
Great. Okay, and please excuse my ignorance about the fact that that was a state in Mexico. Are you working with an NGO on any of your projects?
I don't know that any of them involved in NGO. Well, no, I don't think so. I think they were all just directly with Rotary counterparts in the respective countries.
All right. Is anyone, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, our clubs helped with the Himalayan stove project. We helped with the school in the Dominican Republic. We have helped with the Guatemalan projects, the bridge projects that have been throughout southern South America. We've helped with the Camino Real Club in Mexico. There are just so many opportunities. It's such a tremendous effort and wonderful thing to be able to go to do that. And when I first went on my friendship exchange, the one that I went on, we did several projects in the country we visited. So, it's such a wonderful opportunity. We also, always like to support the exchange students both ways. So.
Now, you mentioned two things that I want to bring attention to. You mentioned a group friendship exchange, and that's a great opportunity to scout for potential projects. And you mentioned youth exchange, and that's another way to become acquainted with partners in other countries. So thank you for sharing that. Is it required that you fund an international service project with a Rotary Foundation grant?
No.
Okay. What are the advantages and disadvantages of funding with a grant? Let's start with the advantages of funding with a global or a district grant.
More financial leverage. I mean,
Mhm. Exactly. Leverage is the key word there. If you have a $80,000 project budget, that's a lot of money to raise for a single club or a group of clubs, isn't it?
This is one
What
of the
are-
things I'm sorry, Doreen.
No,
This
go
is
ahead,
one of the
jump in. I
things-
can't see anybody, so just jump in.
This is one of the things that I absolutely love about Rotary is just that synergy, the ability to pool resources and to accomplish so much more than we can on our own, either as an individual or as a club or even a district.
Exactly. You put that so well. Thank you. Now, what are some of the disadvantages or limitations of using grants to help with funding for an international service project?
gotta follow the rules.
Yeah, you've got some restrictions there, right? Got to stay in the box a little bit.
So though, I think that can also be an advantage because you have the rules where the club on the ground there is really facilitating a lot of the items. So you know the impact is going to hopefully be more effective because you've got the structure there.
Mhm. Absolutely.
A number of the projects that we have been involved in have a construction component. And as you know, Rotary International doesn't support funding for, large scale buildings and so forth. So that has presented a challenge. They've had to look, to other sources for that money.
Mhm. Right. Or maybe you want to do a project in an area and there's not a local Rotary club to partner with. So that's another reason that you might want to engage in an international service project. There are a lot of reasons. Your project might not fall under one of the areas of focus either. So a lot of different reasons why you might forego grant funding. How do you measure and evaluate the success of a project?
Against the performance measures you set at the beginning.
Okay. And I just want to mention that, and we'll find this resource when we transition over to the Rotary website. But the Rotary website has a great document called Global Grant Monitoring and Evaluation Supplement. And that document is useful both when you're planning your project, because if you know what you're going to be measuring, that can really help you write the grant application. And then when you're doing your progress reports or your final report, you need to be able to report the success and the progress of your project using those measurables. So we'll show you where to find those. What are some other resources and sources of help for doing an international service project?
You could go to the conferences that many districts hold together to find out what projects and items are in need in the areas, like we have in our district.
Okay. Where else? Where else can we get expertise.
I think on Rotary Club Central, they have a module that you can, under the Learning Center, about those. I personally have not read those yet because we haven't done an international one, but I think there's a couple of modules on there.
Mhm. Yeah, the Learning Center is a great resource. There's a grants seminar in 9 parts that in our district of 5080, we have to complete that before we're qualified to be on a grant committee. But it's just a great overview, and you could get it done in a weekend. What are some other resources?
Projectmanagement.com has a lot of great resources free for anybody to use for projects. So yeah, projectmanagement.com is a good resource.
Okay, all right. Anyone else? Okay.
Our district website has a whole section under the foundation with many great resources from Governor Tom Walker and others.
Okay, great. So, and I assume that Governor Walker is continuing to be your Rotary Foundation chair. Is that correct?
No, he'll complete on June 30th to move on to be the regional endowment and major
Okay.
gifts advisor for the zone. And we will have Linda Woodward as our foundation chair.
Okay, great. All right, so those are your resources within the district. There's also the Rotary Showcase, where you can be inspired by projects that have already been completed by Rotarians. There's the cadre of technical advisors. So if you're doing a project that involves water systems, for example, you might want to use them as a resource. There are Rotary action groups. There's one for water hygiene and sanitation. There's one for environmental sustainability. There are many, many different Rotary action groups that have members that are experts in all the different fields that tie into the areas of focus. And there are non-governmental organizations that you can partner with as a cooperating organization to help you with your project. Are there any other comments or questions before we shift to the Rotary website?
I would mention that our past district governors tend to be a great resource for just about everything, including this.
Okay, great.
Witness who's facilitating today.
Oh, that's right. I'm one of those. I thought it stood for permanent dinner guest. That's
It
what
does.
I was. Okay, thank you, Sunny. All right. Okay, so now I have shifted to the Rotary website. Is that what you're seeing on your screen
No,
now?
we're still seeing the PDF.
Okay, let me stop sharing and then I'm going to share again. That will probably do the trick. All right. Okay, now you should see something called Project Lifecycle Resources.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, good. All right, I'm glad that worked.
Victory.
Okay, now how did I get here? So I'm going to show you how to navigate. So what do we Rotarians do? We take action. And in this case, we're talking about developing projects, and then we're going to life cycle of a project. So that's how I got here. Take action, develop projects, life cycle of a project. So this is what I call the 33,000 foot view. This shows you kind of the big picture. And then we're going to go over some of these resources, and I'll show you how to get into more of the nitty gritty, into some more of the detail.
Doreen,
But here's, oh, go ahead.
just to clarify, do you need to be logged in to see this section of the website?
Yes, so in order to get to this part of the website, you need to have a My Rotary account. Now, probably everybody on this, in this session today, you're pretty active in Rotary. So I'm going to assume there's a good probability that you have a My Rotary account. But if you're working with others in your club, that's probably the first question you want to ask them, because in any district, the majority of Rotarians do not have a My Rotary account. So talk with your club secretary, talk with your district secretary. It's pretty simple. You just go to rotary.org and you use the email address that you used when you joined a Rotary or have on record with Rotary, and you create a password. It's that simple. And anyone in club administration should be able to look up and see what email address that is in case you're having trouble getting in.
And
They're
I think Rotaractors can also get logins to Rotary.org, just like members of Rotary can. Is that correct? So
Actually, you don't even have to be a Rotarian to have a My Rotary account. I think I sent that resource last time. I'll be happy to send it again at the conclusion of the session. The only difference is access to different parts of the site. So the only thing I don't know, Jeff, is how much access you have as a Rotaractor, as a non-member of Rotary, but anybody can have a My Rotary account.
Thank you.
Okay. And that comes in handy. Let's say you want to see, let's say you're the spouse of a Rotarian and you're working towards your major giving goal. You want to see how much the non-Rotarian spouse has donated. You can access the contribution history. I know for sure that that is accessible to a non-Rotarian. Okay, any questions, any other questions about accessing this and accessing My Rotary? All right. Hey, I just want to go over the preliminary steps that you do when you plan and organizing a project. And what is the most important aspect of doing a project? What determines your success more than anything else?
Planning.
Planning, yes. The better you plan, probably the better outcomes. Now, is everybody familiar with Rotary's areas of focus? How many do we have?
7.
Seven. Hey, what's the newest area of focus?
Environment.
Environment, yeah.
Yes, supporting the environment. Now, I did notice that on some of the links here, they don't have the 7th area of focus, and that is probably because it's July 1st before you can do projects, apply for grants rather, that involve supporting the environment. But I do believe, I did hear at the Rotary Convention that it's in the grant module. So you can start preparing your grant, your global grant application for that area of focus. Okay, and then the next step on here is obtaining assistance with project design and planning and implementation. And we already reviewed many of the resources for that. Learning about the global grant process. There are resources within the site that give you a lot of help in detail. And as we suggested earlier, the Learning Center is a good place to start for that. Now, conducting a community assessment, why is that important?
You have to determine if there's a need, what the need is, which leads to defining the aspects of your project and how to measure your success and so forth.
Mm-hmm. And who should conduct the community assessment? Should it be the international partner or should it be the host partner in the project country?
Ideally, the host partner.
Right, who best knows the needs of the community? Okay. What happens if we don't conduct an effective community assessment? What are some of the pitfalls?
You might try to do a project that isn't even required or isn't possible.
Or is it supported?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and sometimes it happens that we think we know what others need, but we probably don't. The people that we're serving are the best sources of understanding the needs. Okay, and then we want to identify international partners. So I think it was mentioned before, but what if we're doing a grant or we're not doing a grant to help fund a project? We need to have a partner in the host country. Is that right? What's important in selecting an international partner? What are you going to look for?
Well, reliability, being able to count on them to respond to communications.
Mm-hmm. Right. Imagine
Good
that you-
history
Go
of project success.
Can you repeat that for me?
History of project success
Okay.
and
So you want to know that
completion.
they're capable, right?
Yes.
Right. What else?
Skill sets that fit with the project.
Okay. How about stewardship? Is that important in an international partner?
Yes, indeed.
Okay. And what does stewardship mean when we talk about that in terms of accountability?
Making sure that what you think and what you plan to get done is what actually happens with the funds and gets done. And then it's actually accounted for in a proper manner so that we can keep Rotary Foundation's excellent stellar rating for how we do with our charitable funds.
Yeah, so you might be sending $80,000 to Rotary partners in another country, and you're depending on them to use those funds according to the project plan and to submit timely reports to the Rotary Foundation. What happens if they don't do that?
Well, you lose future funding, you lose credibility. It's a lot of not positive things that can happen from it.
Yeah, has that happened to anyone? It's happened, it hasn't happened to me personally, but it happened to me when I was foundation chair. Has that happened to anyone that they've had a partner that hasn't reported or hasn't used the funds in the way it was intended?
Timely reporting seems to be the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes a bit to coax that out of someone, and the failure to do it means we can't work with that partner anymore.
Right.
And we get stymied in how much we can do.
Exactly. You're stuck. You can't get another grant until that one is resolved. So pick your partners wisely and make sure that you can rely on them to do their part. Okay, then we have to secure funding. And if it's a large scale project, we're probably going to use either a district or a global grant. The next thing is ensuring sustainability of the project. Why is sustainability important?
One of the things that happened to one of the clubs that I was involved in Peoria is the partners that we partnered with on site showed us all the paperwork that it was going to be sustainable. 1 year after the project was done and it was all turned over to them, within another year, there was nothing left.
Mm-hmm.
They had mismanaged their sustainability part.
Mm-hmm.
And the program was done. And we were left feeling like we had lost everything that we had put into it, including the 2 people that went over to help do the project.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very sad. What happens to our public image when that happens?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Trust was gone
Mm-hmm.
in that instant, even though we were not the problem.
Mm-hmm.
One
Anyone
of
else
the
want to
reasons-
share thoughts on sustainability?
Yeah, one of the reasons it's important for it to be sustainable is that the whole idea behind the global grants is to create something that will have a continuing impact for the future. And there may not always be funds to support that. So at some point it needs to be self-sustaining so that it keeps having that impact for the future to better our world.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Does anyone want to share ways that they have managed the sustainability of a project so that it endures when the Rotarians leave?
Well, it's not a global grant project, but one of the things that I fell in love with the Camino Real project that we partner on over in Anapra is that they started with this, supporting this community center, and the kids come there and they get healthy food and they get education and they have support. And one of the things that I just thought was really amazing about, I guess it was about 2 years ago, the first kids that had kind of graduated that process and gone over to UTEP to school, and then came back and volunteered at the center after they had already left the program. And to me, that's a really beautiful, self-sustaining thing, because you have people who went through the program that are going to come back and give to it to keep it moving forward.
Okay. All right. So thank you for sharing that. Anyone do water projects in Central or South America? And how do you ensure that funds are available to maintain the infrastructure for that after Rotary partners leave?
Doreen, one of the things that has happened in Guatemala is setting up a nominal donation from the recipients of water projects that manages to fund the ongoing purchase of, for example, chlorine tablets.
Okay.
And another key piece of the sustainability aspect in those projects is training people on maintenance of the system so that they don't rely on us to keep it going.
Exactly. Just a couple of other thoughts. Sourcing locally so that the parts are available in the community. Setting up a utility so that recipients can pay a nominal fee and sustain it, or working with a local government organization to take over the responsibility for maintenance. So those are all different things you want to think about so that down the road, we don't have a Rotary logo on a rusted well that isn't functioning anymore. And, that doesn't look good for Rotary. So we want to think about sustainability at the very beginning of the project. Okay, any other questions before we go to the funding side? Okay. All right, and before we do that, I just want to navigate down and show you some of the resources that are available to you. This part of the My Rotary website, I think, is your best clearinghouse for thinking about and planning your project. It's just got abundant resources here. And in the related documents, we have Rotary's Area Focus Guide. I'm just going to click on that so you can see what it looks like. I'm not sure if this is going to view. Can you see that? Is it showing up on your screen, the guide?
If you share your computer screen, it'll change, but right now you're just sharing specific screens.
Okay.
So we're only seeing the specific screen.
Okay, so let me do stop share and share again. Okay, so now we can see this guide. I just want to kind of, it's a higher level document to help you narrow down your area of focus. So let me ask you this last question. If you have overlap in your project that might involve more than one area of focus, is it a good idea to put that in your global grant application to have multiple areas of focus?
think you have to have primary, but yeah, I think it would be good supporting. Just
Okay,
guessing.
anyone else?
Doreen, I'm under the impression that it muddies the waters and it's actually best to focus on just one.
Okay, I'm glad you shared that, Sunny, because a lot of people are under the impression that, oh, if my project hits on multiple areas of focus, I have a better chance of getting my grant approved. But what it means in terms of your responsibility is you've got to establish goals and measurements for every single one of those areas of focus. So it is better to simplify and just have one area of focus in the grant application. And if you have overlap, that's fine. But if you narrow it down, you make the application process simpler and you make reporting and evaluation a lot simpler. Okay, so let's say that, and this is, oh, go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, just real quick on the planning process here of selecting projects in the areas of focus. In our coming year, our incoming Rotary president has asked us to really, if we can look for areas where we can help women and girls in certain areas of focus. We should look for those as well, because he really wants us to reach out to help underprivileged women and girls in the coming year as well in our international project.
Thank you. Is it Robert that's sharing that?
No, it's Shaker Mehta.
No, I mean, is this our district governor-elect speaking?
Yes.
Yes, I thought it was you.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Yes, and I did hear him share that on the international convention. So I'm really glad to hear that it's going to be about the girl next year.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you, Robert, for sharing that. Or Bob.
Just don't call me late for dinner. You can call me anything else.
Okay. All right. So, yes.
This is sort of a small aside, but it's pertinent. I found out when we were in Guatemala that when you have clean water near at hand, this is a quote, the pregnant women don't have to lug water from faraway sources.
Yeah.
And so, some of the things that look like they benefit the whole community will in fact benefit women and girls even more.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And, there's so many things that I hadn't even thought about that touch on, advancing women's needs and taking care of girls in the community. I recently attended a seminar that WashRag put on. That's the Rotary Action Group for Water, Hygiene and Sanitation. And they were talking about how critical water projects are for women, because you mentioned maternity. In many of the maternity clinics, they don't have running water and they don't have clean toilets. And that's a health hazard. And keeping girls in school, if they don't have gender separated toilets that offer privacy, the girls will drop out of school. So it just touches on all of these different areas of focus. And there are ways to advance better outcomes for girls and women in almost every area of focus. So I'm glad to hear that that's going to be a priority for the coming year. And thank you for sharing that, Sunny and Bob.
Doreen, Laura has her hand raised.
Okay, Laura.
Oh, I was just going to say, also probably slightly off, but one of the projects that I loved when I was over in New Zealand was actually started by a charity here in the US, but they actually have people get together and make women's sanitary pads and send them over. And one of the reasons that it's so sustainable and so supported by Rotary clubs in a lot of places is most of those at the time were going over to Africa, but they also teach the people in the local countries how to do that and keep it up. And what it does is it keeps the young girls in school because they aren't allowed to go to school when they were having their period. And so I thought that was a really wonderful charity and a really great global grant that they were doing out of New Zealand. So.
And you all know we're doing that in our district as well, through the Del Sol Club and Women to Be. We've been working.
Does anyone
primarily
want to
with
share
Nepal.
that?
We've been working primarily with Nepal and
Mhm.
offering not only menstrual kits, but employment to local women to make them. I could say a lot about it, but I won't. I know you've got a limited time.
Well, what I do want to say is keeping girls in school is important because for many reasons, but one of them is it delays marriage. And if you delay marriage, you're delaying childbearing. And a woman at the age of 18 has much less chance of dying in childbirth than a girl at the age of 12. And plus, the whole family has better health and social outcomes if you can delay marriage and extend education. So many, many good outcomes from the hygiene project, in addition to being sustainable and providing employment in the local community. Okay, let's say that we're ready to, we've done all of our planning and we're ready to go in and do our global grant. I'm not going to go to this link. I just want to let you know it's here. The Rotary Showcase is both a source of inspiration so that you can see other projects that are in progress or being completed. You can find partners if you want to partner on a project before you do your own, and that's a good learning opportunity. You can also put your project on the Rotary Showcase and seek partners and funding. So play around with that. It's a little, it requires a little bit of familiarity to navigate, but go ahead and check out the Rotary Showcase when you have time. So we're going to go over to the global grants side now. And hopefully everybody sees global grants on their screen. Is that what you're seeing?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, now we don't have a lot of time on this because we had such a lively discussion on the planning part, and I'm glad for that because planning is really where you want to spend a big chunk of your time on here. But what I want to do is just to direct you to some different resources on global grants. So global grants support humanitarian projects. They can also support scholarships for graduate level academic studies, and they can support vocational training teams. How are they funded? So we have some big changes coming down the road on July 1st. Is anyone familiar with changes in the global grant funding?
I know that they're not doing matches for clubs anymore, and they've changed how the percentage and the formula of it is. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but I remember the training that we learned about it.
Okay, so the World Fund over the last 10 years or so has only increased by 6%, but the projects budgets have doubled in that time period. So that means there's a lot of strain on the World Fund, and the pandemic also drained those resources. So the Rotary Foundation trustees had to decide, do we shut down grants until there's more money coming in, or do we change the funding formula so we can continue to fund grants? And they decided to change the funding formula. So the funding formula now is that the cash part, that's what your club raises, either from other clubs or other Rotarians looking for a match, that's not going to be matched by the World Fund. Now, at your district level, the cash is probably going to be matched at the district level with district designated funds, and that's also coming from the Rotary Foundation. And then the World Fund will match 80% of the district designated funds. So the only advantage to cash now is getting more of a district designated fund match, which gives you more of a World Fund match. So that's the change in the funding formula. And that is in effect now because the cutoff was May 31st to get your grant approved under the old funding formula. So it's not a huge change, and I think it's a good solution to the funding gap. Okay. And I just want to, I have saved some time. Go ahead. Somebody else has a hand up?
Yeah, Steve from Santa Fe. I have a question about the district designated funds.
Okay.
And I know that our club has applied for district designated funds to support a local community project. It sounds like under this new global grant formula, it's kind of an either or thing. You choose, unless you split the monies that are available to you from the district between a global grant and a community, a local grant or project, you're gonna, play one off against the other.
Well, I'm not sure I completely understand the premise, but let me just say that when people donate to the annual fund of the Rotary Foundation, and it's called share when it's not restricted, approximately, I don't want to get too deep in the weeds, but let's just say approximately half of that money comes back to the district 3 years later in the form of district designated funds. And they're called that because those funds are administered at the district level. Now, the district can use half of those funds to fund local grants. District grants is what we call them. And while district grants can be used in some cases for international service projects of smaller scale, for the most part, district grants are used to fund local community projects. So that part of the fund, that bucket, is going to be the same regardless of what's happening with the World Fund, okay? The other half of that district designated fund bucket is used to match clubs' cash funding for global grants. Okay, so it doesn't really affect what's available for district grants.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of the 50-50 split at the district level.
Yeah.
Doreen, we can also use that for other kinds of support of global projects. We've used DDF for polio, for example.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And you can also allocate DDF for to help fund the Peace Endowment. And those decisions are commonly made at the district leadership level and signed off by the district Rotary Foundation chair and the district governor. And this year, there's been a plea made out to all districts because there's a real chance we're going to miss the $50 million funding of Polio Plus that's required to get the $100 million match from the Gates Foundation. So districts everywhere have been asked to commit a portion of their DDF to Polio Plus so that can be funded. But that's getting a little outside the scope of this presentation. All right, I have 5 minutes designated for questions and answers, but I just want to stroll down and show you that you have great resources to help you fill out every aspect of that global grant application. And there's even a template so that before you go in and apply online for the global grant, you can use the template to, let me see if I can, right here is the template. I'm pointing to where you link to the document. So you can plan it all out in a Word document before you go online and start to fill it out on the actual global grant application. I also want to point out the areas of focus policy statements. And those are great because they have goals in there and guidelines, and you can actually take those and plug them into your application. So now that you know where to find these and how to navigate, make sure that you use them and you'll have a much easier time completing your global grant application. And oftentimes it's the host partner that completes the global grant application, but you're both able to go in there and make modifications, anyone that is the lead on the project committee. Okay, so we have just a few minutes left for questions. Or maybe we don't, or not. I have till 10:45, is that correct, or 10:35?
10:35, Doreen.
Okay, so I'm done.
But you fielded questions along the way, Doreen.
Yeah,
It
you
really
did.
worked. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much, Doreen. Wow, excellent
right.
presentation. Again, a challenging subject, and you talk about getting into the weeds, and yep, we could sure do that. But I feel like you've taught us how to fish by showing us the resources that we can go to then to learn more. So thank you so much, Doreen.
Okay.
All right, and Arturo, let's see, there you are. I lost you, my friend. There you
I'm
are.
here.
So our next presentation then by our most awesome Arturo Barrio. He's going to visit with us and facilitate public information and relations. And so thanks so much, Arturo.
Thank you, Kathy. Well, good morning, everybody. Excited to be here. We're going to be talking about public information and public relations. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen to see if everybody can see it. Let me see. There we go. Can I get a thumbs up, Kathy, when you see it? Perfect. So like Jeff said, we're going to have open mic. In case you have any questions, please feel free to stop me along the way. And we want to make this very participative as much as possible. So let's go ahead and get the, this is one of the introductions to this chapter, which is, as I further my Rotary journey, I will identify opportunities to promote the image of my club and Rotary to benefit of my community and the world. So let's keep this in mind when we talk about public image and public relations. This is a quote that I really like, be the change, there is no limit to what we can accomplish when we work together. The session goals that we're going to be going over today, let me go ahead and put them here. I'm just going to move a little bit here. There we go. So first, we're going to discuss public image and publicity as it relates to Rotary and your members and your clubs. Second, we're going to explore how your club can benefit from public relations strategy. And third is identify your club's target audience and how we can effectively reach it. And Jeff was talking about earlier this morning about being a strategic. Definitely the public relations and public image should be a part of all the components of the strategic planning. So just to keep that in mind. Rotary Club and their community. I don't know if you have seen this before, but if you have, there was a survey made back in 2015, and about 60% of the survey said that they didn't know about a local Rotary Club. So I think this is very important to all of us because all the work that we're doing, a lot of people are not familiar with. So Steve already shared with me that he got the cacarear el huevo phrase understood. So I think this is what we're gonna have to do in Spanish. Cacarear el huevo is, to make sure that we share what we're doing, and I'll figure out the translation into English, but this is what we need to do.
Arturo, it's toot your own horn.
Toot your own horn. There we go. Thanks, Steve. So I have a question for y'all. Who is the club target audience? Anybody would like to comment? We have two target audience, internal and external. Will somebody like to talk about internal? Who's our internal audience? And I'm looking to the right because I have the screens and I can see everybody on the right-hand side. So sorry if I'm getting a little bit distracted. So anybody else think somebody come out?
Your club membership would be internal?
That's correct. Club membership. We also have the district. We also have Rotary International. That's more like an internal communication. And who will be our external? Who are some of the members of our external plan? Was that Nancy?
The external would be your community.
Mm-hmm. Community, stakeholders, partners, everybody that knows about what we do and support our initiative, but are not necessarily within the Rotary community. They're not a part of the club, or they're not part of the Rotary structure.
Arturo?
Yes, go right ahead, Kathy. And I'm sorry.
One of the things that I've really appreciated with Don Powell and our district newsletter is that we went from just the incredible, overwhelming, well, not overwhelming, but it just incredible information that we've had then on what different clubs are doing in our district. And it's been inspiring, and it's like, hey, we can do that, or we should partner with them or whatever. And so, so I would certainly include even our district as an external audience.
And you know, Kathy, you bring out a really good point, and I'm going to show a picture coming up next. We were supporting as a district the Navajo project, and just you know, and I think Nikki mentioned it earlier. You know, the more we share, you know, what District 5650, 5520. We share on the initiative when it first began, and we got a call from Dallas saying, hey, we're a club in Dallas and we would like to partner. Can you please provide us an address and we'll send books, we'll send clothes. And it was just from a post on Facebook. You know, they saw it, they want to be part of it. So you're right, you know, there's a lot of internal and external communication that we can do. We're going to be talking about the different tools that we can use for both of them. So we're going to talk about, you know, public image, you know, it's from the to outside and inside from our club, and public relations and publicity. We're going to be talking a little bit more about this stream. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So what do you think is the difference between publicity, public relations, and public image? Anyone? Publicity, I think, is what, you know, what we share about, you know, the programs that we do and we create. We have, you know, most of the control of what we might have on our end from publicity, because we're the ones that produce that. Public relations is, you know, the contact that we have with, you know, media, with, like I said, our partners or different clubs or different districts. And it's also, we can have a little bit of control, and then we're going to talk about that as the next question, which one we might have more control over. And then public image. Public image is what the people perceive about us. You know, what they perceive about our club, what they perceive about our image, or, you know, the message that we're sending. This is why it's so important that all of us are ambassadors to Rotary. So we have to take care of their public image as a club. You know, if we comment on something, just make sure that we're doing it and people associate us with a club. So that's something that we need to be also conscious and cautious about. Sunny, do you want to mention anything? I see you come off mute.
I've been saying off mute. I think you captured it, Arturo. One is what we put out. One is what we leave people with, and the one in the middle is where the characterization of our relationship, which is really key.
Thank you, Sunny. And you know, it's so important, all those three elements. And I think the more our members and our leadership is aware, I think it makes it easier for everybody to find partners, to find sponsors, to find members. And you know, I think it's an image that we have to, you know, the Rotary logo is very important, as you know, is well known across the world. And the more we can, you know, provide more information about it, I think that's really important. And that's what we ask everybody, to wear your pin so you can have a communication starter and have that image. So let me go ahead and I think in one of the last sessions we talked a little bit about this, the following tools for internal and external communication. So newspaper, is that internal or external? Will, as you say external, but you're on mute, but I think I could read your lips.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's external. Excuse me. I'm on.
No worries, no worries.
Got a dog barking in the background.
No worries at all. So newspaper, you know, we talked about this, I think, a couple of sessions ago, and we were kind of asking, you know, how many people still receive their newspapers, and I believe a lot of them did in the session that we had. But definitely that's an external communication, and something that we are planning to do for the coming year is to create media kits for our clubs. So we're trying to create a calendar of events that we can provide the media about, you know, the golf tournaments, you know, the flagship projects that we have. So the media, the more in advance they have them, they're always trying to fill out the news with something. So, you know, the earlier that we can send them an invite, you know, they might publish something in the newspaper. I think Los Alamos is a very, you know, we have a great partner, which I think is one of our Rotary members, and they always publish Rotary news there. You know, they're always coming with the Los Alamos is doing, and I think is one of the newspapers that really follows what the clubs are doing. Internet, many options. We know television. Right now, it's a little bit challenging on television because, a lot of people are not watching TV as we did before. But we only, like in Mexico, we only had 2 channels for I don't know how many years. So you had to watch television and those 2 channels were it. Now we have, Netflix, all the different streaming areas. I know Rotary has been putting a very important campaign for, and help me, Sunny, is it the public advisory or the one that comes out at night or different time schedules? The PDAs at the PDA, or how do you call that?
Oh, the public service announcements, PSA.
Sorry, PSA,
Yeah.
yes, the PSA. So Rotary is creating that, and there's tools if your club wants to do that and you have good relationship with your TV or radio that can be provided to your club. Radio, again, billboards, might be a little bit of expensive, and you might have a greater reach if you do it through social media or different tools. Club brochures, I always recommend that you have a electronic flyer as well as a paper, whichever works for you. There's some people that have shared that in their meetings. Their club members like to leave with the paper on hand. So like Jeff was mentioning earlier, is we got to find out what works for your club and what works for, for your community. So fundraisers, it's really important that we let, the community knows. Future article, if you have somebody that is really good about writing about your projects, send it to the Rotary magazine, send it to, just the internet can make wonders. If you have a blog or something, make sure that you let us know and we can share that with you. And thank you, Laura, for commenting on the chat. I'm trying to catch both, but thank you, Laura, for saying that the newspapers follow that. And that's a great example. I think the more we can share with them in advance the events, we're going to make it easier for them to be aware of what's coming. And they're always looking for good news. So everything that you're doing, if we have that contact and we just can feed that information in advance, they can probably plan and be part of your events. Sunny, you had a comment?
Yes, I have a couple things really quick.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, I wanted to mention that not too long ago, the Albuquerque Journal did a multi-series set of articles on the lack of literacy in New Mexico. I don't know how many of you may have seen it, but one of the things it missed was all of the projects our district is doing around literacy. And so we are actually collecting stories from different clubs about literacy projects to send to the Albuquerque Journal, at least as a letter to the editor, even if they don't choose to publish it as an article. What I wanted to mention also is that people sometimes complain when there are articles about ending polio that Rotary isn't getting credit for that. And Cliff Docterman, past RI president, has made the point that if that is so, it is our doing, that we actually need to be out there telling people about our role in this project, in this campaign. So my last point is, I personally see no reason why Rotary cannot and should not be a household word, and it's really up to us to make that happen.
Sonny, you brought up a really good point. It's something that I want to recommend, and I see Christine hands up. One of the things that I also recommend is if you have a one-pager of your project and you're going to have the media there, provide them with that information. It makes it easier for them. And sometimes when they're interviewing, we have seen sometimes that you have a great project and they never mention Rotary. They say, oh, we have a great community project program done by volunteers. But they don't know what club or what Rotary or what district. So just keep that in mind, have a one-pager available. That will help the media a lot. Christine, go ahead.
I was just wondering, we have had, this last spring, I contacted all of the media in our area, newspaper, TV, radio, and directed them to our PSA sites, which are online at Rotary Central. And everyone said, we don't run PSAs for like Rotary. They said that they they will advertise, like if we have an event coming up or if we've done a project, they will advertise that. They'll write an article or whatever, or we'll write an article and submit to the paper, but they will not run PSAs. Do other people have this same issue or?
Thank you, Christine, for sharing that. Sunny, have you heard anything? I don't think I have heard that on the other meetings that we have regarding the PSA campaign, but thank you.
Once in a while, it depends on the size of the media and how eager they are for information. But in general, if you can give your message a local focus, you're much more likely to get it run. So a general global PSA, as inspiring as it is to us, is not going to be as relevant to them as hearing about what your club is doing and why it makes a difference.
Yeah, that was the reaction that I had got. And so I didn't know whether that was kind of common or
It's not a universal policy. It's case by case.
Okay.
Thank you, Christine. And also thank you, Bradley, for sharing that information about, the streaming channels. I would love to follow up with you on that and how you're doing it. Or how it can be done. And also, Willis, that's great that your newspaper is also following up. I think that the most close relationship you have with your local media is going to be a great asset, to make sure that the community is aware. So thank you for sharing that.
Make them members.
Mm-hmm.
Makes
Definitely.
it easy to go walk over at the club and say, hey, we got an article. Can you push it?
Definitely. And we did one time we had a visit to one of the newspapers and they showed us around and then we invited them over. And then you might have a member to join. So that's a great suggestion. We talked about internet and 2.8 billion worldwide use social media. I think you have seen this in the past, but this is what we need to be where people are. And we talked a little bit about this, spike of social media during the pandemic. 72% of US consumers said that they're spending more time on social media by generations. And I just wanted to give you an update on this that was brought up at the international conference. 64% likely that they're going to continue using social media, but this was called my attention. And this is not saying that we need to focus on a certain generation per se, because I think there's opportunities throughout. But I saw this in the international convention. It really called my attention. In 2019, Generation C, 2% of the world's 7.7 billion population. So again, Jessica, you and Rotary play a key role on the future Rotarians. So you all know how to use these tools. And, one of the things that they also talked about in the international conference is to make sure that we have participation of Rotary in our, district committees. And I know Sunny already began doing that this year with Louisa. But I think it's important for the new Rotary members to be part of helping us engage the new generations and make sure that they're familiar and they're getting our messages. So I just wanted to share this with you. Is there something about your club that the community recognizes? Something that they say, oh, this, like Sunny was mentioning, the literacy projects, anything that you would like to share with us? Talk about?
Arturo,
Mm-hmm.
in Silver City, we've had many projects in connection with a local organization called the Commons, which is a food security and food sustainability organization. We built a greenhouse and we support their food bank anyway. So we're connected to them and acknowledged because of them.
Thank you, Sunny. And this is a picture of the El Paso Sunrise building, the greenhouse here in El Paso locally. So Sunny, we could say that, the Silver City Club is known for food security projects and for that support given to the community. Anybody else would like to comment?
So this year we have the senior recognition where 33 seniors in the area, senior high school seniors, are selected for their service to the community. And this year, what these students did is they took the areas of Rotary, so our areas of focus, and they got to choose the areas of focus that we then gave money to in their honor. So in our community in Omaha because of COVID. So they helped do directed giving in the community through our Rotary to 5 nonprofits in Omaha, and the seniors did, and we gave in their honor. So seniors, and it was really interesting to see where these 33 students chose to give in areas of focus in Rotary, and it helped us connect them to Rotary, and then for them to see what Rotary did. So it was a really interesting way to get them involved in Rotary where there weren't any Interact or Rotaract programs. So
Thank you, Deb. Quick question. I was gonna ask you, is there like a Rotaract club in Omaha or no?
there was one in one of the schools, but there wasn't in the others. So it was a way for us to kind of get them thinking. And now we're in a process of sponsoring a Rotaract a school.
I was going to say that's a great pipeline,
Yeah.
for the future Rotarians, and something that we can, if we can help. We have great Rotaracts in our district that might be able to share their experience, and now with Zoom, they don't need to travel, and they will be. I know Jessica is with us, and they always supportive of sharing, their experience, their projects, and the Rotaract where Jessica's from is from one of the local universities here in El Paso. But I understand that it was this year we got a binational Rotaract created between Juarez and El Paso, another one at NMSU, which is Las Cruces, New Mexico. And I think there's another one coming up, which is E-Rotaract. Is that correct, Jessica?
Yes. It will be for Alondra, and she will be created a new Rotaract, and she calls West Rotaract.
Perfect. Thank you, Jessica.
No problem.
But that's a great project, and thank you for all those best practices are going to help us. We have sometimes the clubs that have the foundation. This could be something that they can look into and replicating to have that pipeline for younger generations to be a part of. So what
Arturo?
the club? Yes, Jeff. Go ahead. Oh,
Laura?
sorry, Lara. Oh, go ahead, Jeff.
Well, I was just going to say Laura has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you, Jeff. Laura.
Hey, Arturo. So I was just going to say one of the things that's really, I think, very functional for our club as far as getting what we're doing out to the community is that we have one person in our club who's designated, and she looks at like all the different awards and things like that are out there for people to apply for in our community. And she takes it upon herself to nominate different parts of our Rotary Club. Like for example, this year, our Interact Club was given the Spirit of the West Award for all the work they were doing during the pandemic, gathering supplies and donations and things like that. And it was a really cool award for them, and it got a lot of great publicity. But just having somebody in your club to look for opportunities to promote what you're doing is, I think, a really beneficial thing.
Thank you, Laura. Definitely helps. So one of the things that we talked about is of what people recognize about our clubs. Sometimes they don't recognize our logo, and this is something that it's really important for the upcoming year. And we know we have some presidents-elects joining us today, and we have a deadline to brand fidelity coming up in June from next year. So we're here to help, and we'll be glad to support you throughout this process. But one of the challenges that we had in Rotary, and I don't have this slide anymore because I don't want to make more confusion, is that all the different clubs had different logos, and that generated a lot of confusion of what institution we represent. So one of the, I don't know if you're familiar with the new logo. I think most of you are now. This is a new brand, the new logo, and we also have the specific guidelines, which is called Identity at a Glance. Very specific on how we can use it, the typography, the colors. So we just want to make sure that everybody is aware that we need to follow this. And in our communication, social media, we talked with the district, with the zone regarding like city signs, or when we meet, you don't have to change those specifically, but our websites, our social media, all our communications, shirts, everything needs to comply with the new logos. And I heard that some of you might not be familiar with the Rotary Central or the Rotary.org. Once you create your account, there's a lot of trainings in the Learning Center for the public image chair or the PR chair, and a lot of tools like Jeff was mentioning. It's a very enriching platform, very easy to use. So if you haven't visited yet, take a look at it, go into My Rotary and then go into the Brand Center, and you'll be surprised of everything that's available to all of us.
Arturo?
Yes, Sunny.
I would like to add that it isn't only a matter of compliance or following what RI is asking. It's been 8 years since we adopted this master brand, and it is time for us to kind of get it together. But I just want to mention how much power there is for every one of us when we have a consistent brand, because then we gain credit for everything that everyone sees. We're all part of this immense organization, and if we show a common front, we gain a lot of credibility and a lot of influence.
Thank you, Sunny. In many communities, very few people even know a Rotary Club exists. We talked about this. How can the clubs do better at public relations? What do we need to do in order to help that?
I think you have to have some consistent messaging. What I'm thinking about is, regularly scheduled either newsletters or bulletins or, something that you're putting into a local newsletter. We have an electronic community newsletter. I could see us putting a regular blurb in there, that thing, so that you've always got a message going out, and you have more chance of hitting people that might not always be reading it.
Thank you, Susanna. That consistency is key. Also on the social media as well. You have the electronic newsletter, but also, we did an analysis when we started last year of for all our clubs and how many clubs had a social media site. How long has it since they had published? And we had clubs that hadn't published in years. So people are not going to go there and try to figure it out. So the most active that we can get, and Nikki mentioned something that is really important. You don't have to create content. There's a lot of content out there from Rotary International, from the Peace Fellowships, from all our clubs, from the district. So I think the more we can share the good news, it makes it easier for everybody. So as long as you have that consistency of posting, you don't have to do every hour or every, but you can do once a week or every 2 weeks, or just be consistent and have that clear message. I think if we try to give a lot of messages of everything that we do, it's going to be very challenging because people get confused. We have to have our elevator speech for a club, the 3 main projects or the 2 main initiatives and how they can be involved. And like Jeff mentioned earlier, is when we talk to somebody, is how do we know what they're interested in? Are they interested in the community service? That they're interested in the social factor? Are they interested in the networking? So how can we make it appealing to the incoming members?
Arturo,
I think the other thing is, like you said earlier, don't be afraid to toot your own horn. I know, like Canadian society, we don't like to, brag, but I think it's really important that as Rotarians we do. So when we're talking to people, not being afraid to toot our own horns.
Thank you, Susanna. I will cover a little bit more on that, but that's correct. I'm from Mexico, and we have that same mindset of like, oh, but this is not for our own benefit. This is to make sure that people are familiar and they're aware of everything that everybody's doing so that they can, and we're going to see this, like Jeff mentioned, we have a great opportunity coming up after the pandemic because a lot of people after this want to get involved. They want to support the community. How do we let them know that we are an opportunity to do community service, to help others? But Deb, I think you had a comment.
Well, actually, I think you're going to talk about it here, Arturo, is it was just that the 2 lists. I mean, there's 2 types of PR that, you're doing. So I'm not going to steal your thunder.
No, go right ahead. We will learn from here. So
it's just that you're talking to individuals that you're trying to recruit to the club, and there's a message to them, but then there's a press list of stories that goes out to another list of people that you want to try to get into the press. Like, what are your events? What are your fundraisers that are going on? And you have it right here. It's a PR chairperson that kind of manages that.
And you know, one of the things that we tried to do this year was a highlight every week, to have a highlight of a club member. You know, the Rotarian highlight of the week, and a small bio. Why? Because we have a lot of talent among our club members, and you know, people might not know that we have expertise in different areas. So I think the more that we can share our story, and it's not to brag, it's just for people to know, oh, you know, we have this expert in this area that is a Rotarian, and he's involved in Rotary because A, B, C, and E. And in last session, I believe Kathy did this, and it was the question is why we joined Rotary. And I'm definitely going to take it for next year, next year starting in a couple of weeks, to start a new campaign about our members and why they started Rotary. Put a picture of them and a quote, because I think that's going to get people inspired. You know, it's different. I don't think it's very different of why people joined 30, 40 years ago, of why the new generations are joining. You know, we want to do network, we want to meet people, we want to do community service. So I think the more that we're aware that we have that common denominator, is going to help our clubs to understand, you know, the incoming and, you know, the club members, that they're coming in for the same thing. So we also had a meeting the other day, and they were talking about specifically, for example, the business. You know, Rotary has gone a little bit away of, you know, promoting business, but for the incoming members, that's really important. So anyhow, I think I kind of a little bit of divert on that, but you know, does your club have a public relations chairman or chairperson? I think it's very important. Like we said, you know, we have three main pillars, which is foundation, public image, and the third one is membership. So, you know, we have to have PR in mind in all the projects that we do. And, you know, we have to follow Rotary International guidelines. We have to be in contact with the public, with the club. And we talk a little bit at the beginning about the public image strategy, internal and external. How do we make sure that we engage our community, engage our prospective members? And I was looking, and I'm sorry I didn't include that slide, but I took a picture of it on the Rotary International Convention. And 80%, 85% of people that joined Rotary found a club through other Rotarians, 85%. So that's how important our role is to make sure that we get the word out. And you know, the goal for the coming year for Rotary International is each one bring one. Christine, you had your hand up, please.
Yeah, this is a chance for Randy to tell people about, we just started a YouTube channel through Randy, and also the interviews that he's been doing. If you want to address that, Randy.
I suppose I can chew my own horn. I was sitting there, we were watching the international conference on Tuesday, and someone's like, I have a YouTube channel. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. So during the thing, I'm sitting on my phone, I created a YouTube channel right while I was in the meeting, and already posting videos, but we post videos of current members. I ask them 3 questions: why they joined Rotary, why they continue to be Rotary members, and then also why someone else should join Rotary. Just a minute-long interview, and I post that to all our channels, and we're actually getting a lot of hits on it and getting new members. So,
thank you, Randy. Thank you. And you know, Jeff also created a YouTube for our district, and I think that's a great suggestion. I think now that we have the online platform, the virtual, that will be very accessible and way to do. So thank you, Randy, for sharing that, and we'll definitely look into doing those type of interviews. And we'll be glad to share those. So just send it our way, and we'll post it on our website too, and our Facebook. So there's something that we talked a little bit before is, you know, if our projects have the public relations in mind, you know, we have to have that in order to have, you know, it's easier to get sponsorships, it's easier to get people to be active. A lot of people are engaged in Rotary because of our projects. So it's very important to have those two elements, the internal and external communication. And how do we get our members, involved in these projects, and how do we get the community involved in the projects? And how can our club members be part of the public relations strategy? Promotion. We are posting, like I mentioned, on the district website, our club websites. Imagine if our club members will share that on their personal Facebook page, or their personal Twitter, or their personal social media outlets. Just share, like and share, like Ricky mentioned, like and share. The universe that we have, as in our district, I was trying to remember, Sunny, do we have 2,000, close to 2,000 members in our district?
Just over 2,000.
Over 2,000. Imagine 2,000 multiplied by the name of friends, the number of people that are connected to our network. If we could share those stories, our reach would be a lot easier, and it will be a lot more accessible. But we don't want to tell you what to post or not, but just a suggestion of the impact that it might have if we share in our personal social media outlets. Just good for that. On the efforts, we have champions in our club, like Randy. Randy obviously has experience on public relations, social media, and we have great assets in our clubs. So we got to find those champions and help us share those best practices. All our clubs need this type of ideas, this type of suggestions. We might have not thought about it, but it's something easy to do, and we can do it. And understanding, it's the understanding that we're not tooting our own horn, but we're trying to create awareness of what Rotary is doing for the world. Earlier today, we talked about the Aguascalientes project, we talked about the Guatemala project, we talked about, the Juarez project in Anapra. And we're talking about local, the impact that the Navajo project had locally, how COVID was an opportunity for all our clubs to serve. There's a community aware that, all our clubs had projects during the pandemic. People volunteering to take food to the doctors, to the nurses, people delivering food. I don't know, I'm just thinking out loud of the different initiatives I've heard throughout the year. But I think the more people are aware, the more they might be interested in being part of something as great as Rotary.
Arturo.
Yes, Sonny.
What you're saying makes me realize that, in a way, tooting our own horn is a narrow characterization of the whole point of public image, that really we're offering two things to people. One is hope for the future, a vision of a world that works for everyone. And the other is a direct invitation to be a part of it. I think about, when we end polio, is there anyone on the planet who doesn't want to be able to say they had a hand in making that happen? It's selfish of us not to be inviting people.
And yeah, you're correct. And when we talk about a brand, and I heard this in one of the seminars that we attended, a brand is a hope. When we have our brand, which is Rotary, it's a hope to be good in the world. And how do we make it accessible to people if they're not aware? And like I was saying, if you see the numbers, and I'll be glad to include that on the presentation. I'm sorry I was not able to include it yet, but there were some interesting information from in the Rotary International Convention talking about, the number of people due to COVID that now are going to go to extreme poverty. And people that lost their jobs, people that lost, how us as Rotary can be supportive of that. How can we have that opportunity to help others? We talked about, the reaching out, it was the check-in Tuesday, calling our Rotary members that we haven't heard from in a while, just to make sure that they were okay. Something as simple as that makes a difference to our club members. And you're right, Sonny, I think is, how do we make sure that people are conscious and aware of these opportunities to serve the world? So thank you for clarifying the tooting your tone in a more diplomatic, kind version of that. So yes, what can we offer? We promote your programs and events in the district, social media outlets. We know there's small clubs, there's larger clubs. If you need that support, we're here to help you. Share best practices. Today at RLI, And I think this is what I love about the sessions, is that we all learn from each other. You know, it's not that we're sharing, we're just learning from each other and all the best practices. It saves us a lot of time. Comments and shares on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. It doesn't matter what district you're in, just like and share, because you never know, somebody might be moving in from Omaha to El Paso, and they will know there's a Rotary Club in El Paso, and they will be interested in joining. One of the things that we heard lately that, you know, thanks to the virtual platform, a lot of the club members had to leave their hometown to go live with their families, but now they're able to connect because of the virtual platforms. So you never know. We had speakers from all over the world that might be interested in supporting. Please help us guide your club with examples of the club branding and, you know, much more. These are some of the things that we offer. And what we need from your club. If you don't have a public image chair, please appoint one. There's a place in Rotary that you can put it in Club Runner to make sure that we have the contact. And we're also going to be having some trainings available this coming year for public image chairs, but there's a lot in the branding center. Public image stories. You know, every time I come to those meetings, I learn so much from you, and it's so inspiring, you know, to hear why you joined Rotary, why are you in Rotary today, why are you working on a Saturday morning on RLI, getting, you know, more information of supporting your clubs. You know, this is really inspiring. Designation of public image chair, comments, and copies of your newsletters. You know, please send them our way. We will be glad to share and to make sure that people are aware. You know, some clubs want ideas of how to do their newsletters, and you already have discovered something that is very useful and easy access. And I don't know if you have any comments or questions. We still have a few minutes to go. I think I still have an hour. No, I'm just kidding. But we have a few minutes, so let me go ahead and stop sharing, and I'll put my information in the chat so you can get a hold of me in case you need it. And I think we're back to the main screen. There we go, full screen. There we go, perfect. Comment or questions, suggestions?
Well, once again, yeah, just the opportunity to share ideas. And so I'm over here making a list, and I'll bet you guys are as well then, as far as things to be doing and just hearing about the cool projects that are going on. So excuse me for interrupting though, Governor.
No, that's fine. I was going to say thank you to our crew and also remind all of us that the stories are what makes a difference.
Yeah.
You know, just tell your stories. Be inspired and let other people see that you're inspired.
Absolutely.
I love, because we are a very small community and we'll have a small membership and a small board. What I'm really getting from this session is that we don't have to do everything ourselves. There's so many resources and supports out there that can help us get the word out there and do some of the things, you know, to put that public, you know, good public image out there and to communicate out, but we don't have to do it all ourselves.
And you know, Suzanne, there's a big support system, and there's a lot of people that are here to help you. I think Jeff's session was really instrumental. There always are, like, you know, the strategic planning. There's a lot of tools, and you know, sometimes we are, I don't know how to say it, a little bit worried about going to Rotary International, but please don't be afraid. It's super easy. That has a lot of, you know, the partnership with Toastmasters International. There's a lot of different trainings and tools, how to create your logo, how to, you know, there's pictures, everything you might need. And I think that the enriching part of Rotary is that you're part of a 1.2 million people network. So we are here to help you, you know, even though we might be in El Paso and you might be in Canada, you know, we're just a phone call away or Zoom link away. So reach out to us. That's what we're here for. You know, Jeff has done amazing on the trainings, and we're here to help. And I think we all want the same thing. That's why we're here today. And we just want to make our communities better. So
thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Any
And I'm
other
no
thought-
expert. I'm no expert. And I know people that are, and I reach out to them and say, hey, please help me out on this. And they will, they do. So, I have great support from the Clovis Rotary Club. We have Eric, who's an awesome, he shares them with us, and El Paso Club, we have Andy, who's a social media guru, and he helps us out. So like you said, we don't have to do this on our own. We just want to make sure that people know. And anyhow, any more questions or comments?
All right. Thanks so much, Arturo. Awesome. Way to go. Appreciate that. And anyway, great work. I'm inspired. Hey, folks, we've got another 20